Hello, I'm Luke, and this is Polymathy, and today I am not going to talk about the Latin language. I am going to talk about the Greek language, so at least I don't have to rename this channel Monomathy. I can call it Dimathy. And I want to talk about the pronunciation of the Greek language. Greek has been around for a long time. Classical Greek is the 5th century BC, and then after that, for many hundreds of years, we have the Koine period of Greek, the common language, first spread by Alexander the Great. And after that, there's Byzantine Greek, which goes until about 500 years ago, and then we start to call it modern Greek. These terms are reasonably arbitrary, as well as the dates, but there are some important factors that go into it. Now, I want to talk about this because there are, in addition to a large population of Greek speakers in the country of Greece, quite a number of people today who actually speak ancient Greek. Now, when we say ancient Greek, I just mentioned 3 varieties. Is Byzantine ancient? It's medieval, it's old, so we probably wouldn't call Byzantine Greek ancient, though it does start on the end of antiquity in the 4th and 5th century AD. And then before that, there's Koine, which goes all the way up to the end of the classical Greek era, which ends in about 400 or 350 BC. I have made a chart for this, a table which I call Ranieri's Greek Pronunciation Chronology Spreadsheet. That's a clever name, I know. And you can find that at bit.ly/Ranieri Greek Pronunciation. And that link will be in the description of this video as well. What I've done in this spreadsheet is I've taken all of the resources I've been able to find so far, including the famous Vox Graeca book by W. Sidney Allen, as well as a variety of other resources, compiled them, and put together the changes of the phonology of Greek, the basic phonemes according to the letters, the diphthongs, the consonants, how that all changes through history to the best of my ability. And I think this is a useful document because in my head it's been somewhat clear how, okay, classical Greek is pronounced this way and Koine is this way. Well, when we say Koine is one way or the other, you can get a lot of people who are right and be very different in their opinions. Because Koine, when it's the end of the classical Greek period in, say, the 3rd century BC, when Alexander the Great is starting his conquests, well, that's very different from the Koine that happens at the end of antiquity in the late Roman Empire. Those will start to sound pretty different. Some pretty significant changes happen. In other videos, I'll talk about those in some more detail, but today I want to talk about something that really bothers me. In general, it's the anachronism of pronunciations that I hear from ancient Greek speakers. Now, I really admire all the people who speak ancient Greek. They pretty much all of them speak ancient Greek much, much better than I do or perhaps ever will. But I'm very interested in the reconstruction of ancient phonologies. And when I hear things that are just very strange anachronisms, it bothers me. And it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. I'll give an example. There's the word charizdo, which would be an Attic pronunciation. In modern Greek, it would sound like harizo. And this word means to do a favor. And it contains 2 very interesting consonant sounds. The first is an aspirate. Well, what's an aspirate? An aspirate is where we take a stop or a plosive and we add extra air to it. As English speakers, we actually do this natively at the beginning of a word. For example, the word cat or could or kill, whatever. All of those words have a K sound, but when I say K, there's an H sound which follows it. And English speakers, as well as German speakers, most Germanic language speakers add this H sound to the beginning of every word that starts with a K or a hard C sound, a K sound. Because if we don't do it, then we say ka. And that's not an initial word sound in English. To our ears, it's strange, but it is normal for Spanish, Italian, modern Greek. So this is actually easy for us to pronounce in the Attic way, in the classical Greek pronunciation of the 5th century BC, For if we're an English speaker, because we just have to pronounce it like a normal initial K sound. We have to make the vowel A, which is not a vowel in many varieties of English. So we have to make a nice bright A, such as Italian or Spanish will do, or mostly modern Greek. So we can say ka, and that's all we have to do. Then we have a R, that's a sound we have in many languages like Spanish and Italian and modern Greek. So we have the kar, and then next we have the I sound followed by the letter which we call zeta in English or sometimes zeta. And this in the Attic pronunciation for many speakers was the combination of a z followed by a d. Zd. So in fact, the letter in the classical Greek pronunciation is zdeta, zdeta. And however, by the end of the classical Greek period, before the year 400 BC, for many speakers, this was already changing into the modern Greek pronunciation, which is z, very much like the English z sound. In the ancient varieties of Greek after classical, it's duplicated, it's geminated, it is always doubled, but at some point, Greek loses geminated consonants, and when it does, it's just a simple z sound. It's not a double z, long z sound. So, in Attic, this is pronounced charizdo, whereas in modern Greek, it's charizo. Now, this is where I have a problem, because I hear many people who learn ancient Greek, who speak ancient Greek, and they combine the modern Greek sound cha with the classical Greek sound zda, and they say charizdo, and this drives me insane. It makes me nuts because the sound of the zdeta was already losing ground to the regular z, zeta sound and not only in antiquity, but in the classical Greek period, before the end of classical Greek. Certainly by the end of the 4th century BC, it's z pretty much everywhere. It's no longer zd. Well, what about cha? When did that become a part of the Greek language? Well, that phoneme, which is represented by the Greek letter chi, which is how we usually call it in English. In modern Greek, it's called chi. We can see that it's represented here. By the way, the spreadsheet uses the International Phonetic Alphabet for the symbols in each one of the blocks. We can see in the classical period, it's represented by a K with a superscript little letter H. And this is the sound of an unaspirated ka followed by a ha, ka, ka. Easy for a native English speaker to do. Now that only starts to change into something different in the early Byzantine period. This is still a very ancient time, it's the 5th century AD, but it's no longer what we consider to be ancient Greek. It's now medieval Greek, so nevertheless, this starts to change from ka into an affricate, from an aspirate into an affricate. An affricate is that initial, in this case, a velar ka, followed by cha. It's sort of the combination of the two. So it's ka, ka, ka. And that exists as a transitional phoneme for some time. And by the way, the exact timing of this is not certain. However, we can determine that the transition from the aspirate into what is eventually the fricative, like the cha, the modern Greek cha, which is like in the German word Bach, it's similar to that, that comes quite late. It definitely doesn't seem to happen for certain in any point in antiquity, and most likely happens in early to middle Byzantine. So we can certainly say by the 10th century AD, it's become the modern Greek sound of a cha. And that sound is similar to the pronunciation of the letter J, the jota in Spanish, at least in most dialects of Spanish. And in Greek, this sound could have some allophones as well, which I won't talk about. But at least in this word, which means I do a favor, I oblige, in modern Greek pronunciation, charizo, and in the classical one, charizdo, we can see here, by a conservative estimate, that we are using a sound of this deta, which is from approximately the year 500 BC, from the 5th century BC. We're combining the zdeta with a sound that does not for certain happen until the 10th century AD. 1.5 millennia spread of difference between these phonemes. Now, we could say that perhaps with some speakers, with more innovative speakers, that the cha, the modern sound, is going to happen sometime earlier in Byzantine. Fine, but then we're talking about basically 1,000 years difference. We're in the same word being pronounced harizdo. So the problem is that this makes no sense. Harizdo is just insane. The whole purpose of the exercise, of the joy of reviving an ancient language, as we do with Latin and ancient Greek on a daily basis, is to enjoy the sound of it. And if we're not going to do that with care and attention, let's just use the modern Greek pronunciation. And I'm serious. At least that's a definable pronunciation of the Greek language. And if we take the phonemes from Byzantine, most of which are very similar to the modern ones, if not identical, then at least it's a pronunciation that Greek speakers have used for a long period of history. But harizdo, that's just insane. It's completely wrong. So I strongly encourage people to take a look at this spreadsheet and pick a pronunciation system. Use the modern one, if you like. Use the classical Attic one for everything, if you like. If you want to speak Koine, what kind of Koine? Are you interested in the Koine of the classical Roman period of 100 BC to about 1 AD? That's where I'm mostly interested in the pronunciation of ancient Greek. Others might be interested in biblical pronunciation of the 1st century AD. But mismatching phonemes from 1,000-year spread is just ridiculous and unnecessary. So my recommendation for everybody out there interested in learning and speaking and pronouncing and reciting Greek, ancient Greek in particular, pick one period, learn that one well, and then learn others, of course, learn all of them, but don't mix and match phonemes. It makes no sense. So in short, don't say harizdo, say harizo, or carizdo, or we could do a Koine pronunciation, carizzo with a double z, something. Thank you for watching and letting me complain. Please leave your comments, and I look forward to hearing from you. Kairos esti, canare supra lacum, por mia getum, melius tempus quando, nec nuntiat nihil lulli quidem idei passia.